Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Our COVID situation is getting worse, as we know, very grim, and we are now the global spot of concern. Everybody in the world seems to be worried about India. Some are saying, look at where India has ended up, why India has ended up here, help India. The others are saying, learn from India's experience, don't be complacent, because what has happened to India can happen to other countries as well. So we've at this point become a very poor example, but what is more important than what is happening to our prestige nationally around the world is also the situation in the country. The situation is very grim because all the wrong numbers are up, all the right numbers are down. So you can see this, and I know that all of you are smart, you are watching this, plus you are experiencing this, because we are now reaching a situation where almost everybody knows somebody or a family where somebody has passed away, and almost everybody has somebody sick, if not in the immediate family, in the extended family. We've also had a lot of that happen to our immediate family and our extended family also. So in this grim mood, I'm talking about a very serious thing. I'm starting with a story, and the story is from our family folklore. And if you've been my listener, watcher, reader for any length of time, you will know that most of the family lore that I share with you as examples or analogies, either in Cut the Clutter or National Interest, has to do with our many cats and dogs, many generations of cats and dogs. So there was a time our first dogs were actually 3 dogs, and they were called Runa, the senior most, Misha, the second, and Teddy, 3 of them, 2 Lhasa Apsos and 1 Lhasa Fox Terrier. So they would feel very lonely if we went out. We didn't have a child then, and later we had a small child, so they really missed us if we had gone out because there was nobody at home. And they would usually pick up something and ruin it. So one day we came back home, and this was in Shillong, and we found the pages of a book strewn all over the floor, not in one room, but in other rooms as well. It's as if those 3 dogs had really taken their time with one book and torn it to pieces and spread them all over. So if you had the pleasure of keeping dogs at home, of having dogs as your pets, you know that all pets know how to show annoyance. But this is the tactics that the dogs use. They can chew up your shoes, they can do something else. But in this case, there were 3 of them. So when we came home, we looked at this carnage of a book, mercifully only one book, which they had pulled out of the bookshelf. We looked at them in sense of, Kisne kiya, who did it? And now none of them would come anywhere near this. In fact, if anything, as we scolded them, each one will look at the other 2 as if the other 2 had done it. Now there is a lesson there, because human beings, animals, living beings have similar instincts. So similar instincts are, when you see a mess up somewhere, when you see a disaster somewhere, particularly if it's a disaster for which you can be held accountable, don't be seen near it. Don't be seen near it, and don't put up your hand and say, I did it. In fact, if you can, look at the others or create sort of circumstances so other people might think, or whoever is calling you to account might think that someone else is to blame. So this is that elementary logic. And as I conclude this episode of Cut the Clutter, I will tell you a really funny story about this, or a little tail piece on this story. I will not forget it, nevertheless. So what is the situation? This is the situation. The reason I tell you this story is that I remembered this story thinking about India's current COVID management, because there is a national COVID task force. Most of its members, we don't even know who's the head, who does what, who's responsible for what, who's accountable for oxygen, who's accountable for drugs like Remdesivir, Favipiravir, who's accountable for vaccinations. It is everybody. And when something goes wrong on one, everybody looks at everybody, and the fact at this point, very unfortunately, is that everything has gone wrong with everything. At this point, very unfortunately, with our COVID management, nothing is right. So you see all this oxygen stuff landing at airports, and ministers and all saying fantastic. So External Affairs Minister will celebrate it as an example of cooperation and friendship and global solidarity with India. Good point. Civil Aviation Minister will celebrate it as the work of civil aviation. Even better point, because after all, India is showing the big ability now to bring this kind of cargo so quickly by air, both between Indian aviation companies, from Air India to private companies, but also with Indian Air Force, because the heavy lift that it acquired recently, fairly recently, C-17, C-130s, IL-76s, those are being used right now, and you see them in display. But where is this stuff going? Nobody knows. In fact, it looks like we are still checking out customs rules on how this can go out. So it's only yesterday that the finance minister spent several hours, I believe, to clear up the rules so that customs duty could be waived on these items of emergency use. And it's still been done in such a way, and in such a qualified way, that I'm afraid, I'm almost sure in a year from now, so there will be people in court saying that, look, this was supposed to be customs duty free and I imported this, but customs department is not allowing me that duty exemption. Customs department will say, so and so, this does not qualify because this does have one valve more or one light more or one button more and stuff like this. It's bound to happen, because that is the nature of all bureaucracies, particularly tax bureaucracies. And Indian tax bureaucracies, particularly the Board of Indirect Taxes, they have been sort of inured to a past of complicated rules, customs controls, import controls, etc. So those habits haven't gone. So see, India has taken, while the world has rallied and sent India all this stuff, India has taken 1 week just to sort out the customs duty problems. But now the finance ministry might say that we have sorted out the customs duty problem. Civil Aviation Ministry says we've done our job by getting this stuff into India, and so does the Ministry of Defense. Ministry of External Affairs says that we have done our job by talking to all the governments and convincing them that they need to help, and they are helping so readily. So all of us have done our jobs. But where are these oxygen generators? Where is this equipment? Where is this new oxygen? So while you have the External Affairs Ministry tweeting that this is an example of great cooperation, this stuff is being sent or it has arrived. You have the Civil Aviation Ministry then saying, fantastic, we got it into India, we hauled it into India in record time. You have the Finance Ministry saying, see, it might have taken us a couple of days, but we have waived these duties, we've been so generous and so good, so our job is done. But then why are our hospitals everywhere short of all this stuff? Where do you see this stuff? Because what is lacking is that one minister, one civil servant, one czar, one somebody who probably should be sitting, who should set up a camp office at the airports where this stuff is arriving and making sure that already a supply chain is set up. There are trucks waiting outside or whatever carries this stuff out, either to railway stations or to their destinations in the city or nearby places. And this stuff is hauled straight as it comes off from the aircraft and still goes through its customary customs clearance, because that has to be done. We are a very strange country. When our defense forces buy, say, Rafale aircraft, or when our own defense production companies produce T-72 or 290 tanks and our armed forces buy them, our government charges them GST for that as well. So government taxes itself. So it's a funny government. I've never been in the government, so I don't know. There must be a logic to why things work the way they work. But what is needed is that when this equipment comes, this medications come, somebody already knows. There is a supply chain management. Somebody knows that this lot of remdesivir will go to such and such and such and such and such and such hospitals, or such and such and such and such and such and such state governments. But that is not happening. Stuff is lying. So I am now waiting for somebody, for another series of tweets to follow these tweets. I made arrangements with foreign countries to get this stuff into India. I hauled all this stuff into India. I waived duty on this and I cleared it quickly at customs, at the customs checkpoint. And if now the next level of tweeting is that I put it on a truck to go this to such and such place, and maybe a fifth one saying thank you very much, we've received this here, because that is when it will make a difference. But that is not happening. Everything is a mess, and when you look around, everybody looks at somebody else. So that's my family story. So in this situation, there is one specific thing which has gone really wrong and which is now threatening India's fight against coronavirus. So oxygen, drugs, these are the immediate mitigating things. So all this is about mitigation. All this is after a person has become sick and has become a patient. Unfortunately, most of the stuff that's coming in, oxygen to remdesivir, it is about patients, people who've got sick and got very sick and need hospitalization and these extreme forms of treatment and life support. But what if you can prevent people from getting sick? So this is mitigation. This is when maybe your kurta is torn, you stitch it, or you put a flint inside so nobody sees the insides. But what happens with prevention? You could have prevented this kurta from tearing. If such a thing was possible, the equivalent here is the vaccination. Now look at this one graphic that I will show you. And this will remind you, what does it remind you? It reminds you of a slide, a children's slide in a park. You go to the top and then you slide down, boom, and you come down, right? So should your vaccination chart, this is the number of vaccinations per day, be looking like a children's slide in a park or in a school playground? That is how it looks. That means India's vaccination rate is coming down instead of rising. This is in spite of, in fact, especially after the launch of the third round or the so-called accelerated round, which says now anybody can have it over 18 to 45. State governments, private sector can give it. This is looking like a disaster which has already been made. This is looking like that book which has been torn into shreds in our home. Now, see this chart and it tells you other things. See this chart, see a story that I will share you that my colleagues Mona Basu, our science correspondent, and Ramandeep Kaur, who does art, they are doing, and they will explain it. But also an article by Uman Kurian, who sometimes we quote for wonderful data-filled writings from ORF. An article from him, and he tells you another picture. If you see the graphic from his article, which is based on PIB data, Press Information Bureau data, government data, it tells you how many copies or how many doses has each state received and how many have been already pushed into people's arms. If you see that, you will find that almost every state is out of doses. It is obviously a case where supply is inadequate. If states had more vaccines, they could have pushed more vaccines into people's arms. All states are short. All states have finished everything except one honorable, quote unquote, honorable exception, that is UP, which is sort of falling behind and it's got surplus vaccines. They should be using these very quickly because UP countryside, UP, rural UP is beginning to look really bad and they should not be doing it. The other thing that Uman Kurian does is he also estimates what kind of vaccine supply is available right now and what kind might be available by the end of July. Because May, June, July, these are the three crucial months. We know that by end of July, August, a lot more vaccines will come, production will be ramped up. But in these 3 months, a lot of lives could be lost. And that's what Adar Poonawala also said, that over the next 3 months, India could face serious shortages of vaccines. So he's given us the numbers. If you look at the numbers now, he says that 5.8 million, that is 58 lakh vaccines are still with the states, which the states will be injecting. Now, 5.8 million is like usually should be less than 2 days vaccination stock in the country. Then another 5.6 million, 56 lakhs are in the pipeline. These are vaccines from the central government for the 45 plus population. Then he says the order of another 23 million, that is 2 crore 30 lakhs. This is from the previous order. That order is pending. So this will also come in. As all this comes in, Government of India would have finished their first lot, and the second lot they have ordered 12 crore Covishield and 11 crore Covaxin. So if you add all that, then Government of India by the end of July would have delivered 12.2 crore Covishield and 6.1 crore Covaxin, which means 18.3 crores of all vaccines, which effectively means that only 9 crore people twice vaccinated, but it will not work like that because a lot of people will then be vaccinated the second time post July. Then he says the states and the private sector, while this stock is being provided by the central government for 45 plus population, state and the private sector will have another 11 crore vaccines available, mostly from Covishield. And similarly, Bharat is also upping its production. Bharat Biotech produces Covaxin. So there again estimates are available. This is from public data that Oman Korean has picked up. He says Bharat Biotech is now, in fact, I'm happy to know that by March they had increased their production to about 1.5 crores. It was just about 40 lakhs earlier. 1.5 crore. In April, they'll produce 2 crores. In May, they will produce 3 crores, which is good. So that's at a level that's about a half of Serum Institute or Covishield. By August, they intend to take it to 7 crores, which will be very good. He also estimates that this year, India will be importing quite a few vaccines. So about 25 crores of Russian Sputnik 5 vaccines will be imported. He says that 1.5 million have already arrived and they are going through regulatory processes. I do hope these regulatory processes are a little bit faster than our customs and airport clearances processes, because vaccines have no business. When you see every state out of vaccines and every state hungering, thirsting for vaccines, to keep them in storage, awaiting some clearances and formalities is a crime against humanity. And it's a crime against Indian humanity, or that part of humanity that is Indian. So I hope these get out in the market quickly. Then he says another 25 crore will be imported. India will then be producing 85 crore of Sputnik 5 vaccines, but mostly for exports, because that was the contract between the Indian partner Dr. Reddy's Labs and Sputnik 5 also, because India does a lot of contract production, and by the July end, maybe the first doses of Johnson & Johnson will also arrive. So his estimate is, which I am sharing with you, that now between now and July, the maximum India can do is 3.7 billion a day. 3.7 billion a day will be twice as much as what we have done yesterday, which is a shame. In fact, if you see 7-day moving average, and these are also again Oman Korean's calculations, 7-day moving average, India's average of daily vaccinations has slid from 3.6 million to 1.7 billion. That's why you find that children slide from a park, from a public park or a school playground. So daily doses have slid, and you can see that there is a gap between Covishield and Covaxin, but towards the end, Covaxin is catching up just a little bit. So once again, there are many disasters going on, but the worst of all is the vaccine disasters, because what this means is, this will, if you can vaccinate more people, you can lighten the load on your hospitals. If you don't do it, then our hospital system, which is already collapsed, can you imagine what will happen to it 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now? So you have a weapon. Somebody should be appointed there, or somebody should be held responsible for what is happening with India's vaccination program. What is happening right now, unfortunately, is all in a shambles. This is like that book that I talked to you about. Everything is lying scattered. All the pages have been torn, and nobody is willing to be held accountable. Everybody is looking at the other. Now, I told you, I'll tell you a story about that book, or maybe just a little tailpiece towards the end. I held it back earlier because it had nothing to do with this episode of Cut the Clutter, or the logic of it. Can you guess what the name of the book was? It's a true family story. The name of the book was Dogs of War. Soft copy, soft cover, easy to tear. Dogs of War, famous book by Frederick Forsyth. This was about a bunch of European mercenaries operating in a fictional African country. I think it was called Zangaro. So the joke in the family is that how did the dogs decide that the book they must pick up to tear to shreds, maybe to give us a message or maybe just because they were bored, was Dogs of War. I mean, those are family stories. Those don't have to have much logic, and all this can be forgiven for the love of these members of our family, or the tailed members of our family.